9 times out of 10, being a lamb led to the slaughter is not the best position to find yourself in. That 10th time, however, is while playing Massive Monsters Cult of the Lamb, a delightfully demented roguelike that combines fast-paced dungeoneering, bold art, dark topics, and real-time simulation elements to create a one-of-a-kind experience. It couples two popular genres and smartly avoids their potential pitfalls, all while showcasing the best things they bring to the table. Take all this and add a simple but engaging narrative, and you've got a cult classic game well worth playing. Cult of the Lamb begins at our poor titular Lamb's End. After walking down a narrow stone corridor, you are greeted by the Old Gods, 4 monstrous beings to whom the inhabitants of this strange land are mostly loyal. As it turns out, this little lamb is the last of its kind, having managed to evade death while the rest of its fluffy friends were cold. The old gods reveal this was due to a prophecy that a lamb would be the ones who would lead to their undoing, destroying the old faith and unleashing the one thing they fear most, the one who waits. The gods instruct their followers to dispatch of you quickly, but little do they know this is precisely what the prophecy demands. Upon being killed, you meet with the One Who Waits, an all-powerful god who we learn was betrayed and imprisoned by the other 4. He then makes you an offer. Start a cult in his name, and he will both bring you back to life and gift unto you his former powers via the Red Crown. From this point, the game divides into 2 main sections: exploring dungeons and managing your cult. There are 4 main dungeons in Cult of the Lamb, each of them ruled by one of the old gods. The dungeons are composed of a series of location types arranged on a web map, allowing you to evaluate their icons and choose the path you wish to follow. The most common types are combat areas, which are denoted on your map by a sword icon. Each of these areas is made up of a handful of randomly generated rooms occupied by monsters, or, if you're lucky, a mysterious figure wielding tarot cards that grant you various boons. Other types of areas include ones filled with resources, shops, malevolent pentagram chambers, and new followers. Your main objective while exploring these dungeons is to reach the end and face off against each of the 4 old gods. Upon finishing them off, all enemy units grow stronger, a new boss enters the final area, and you gain the ability to venture out repeatedly instead of having to return to your cult after each expedition. This adds some major replayability, and gives you the chance to grind when later areas prove challenging. While Cult of the Lamb has a fair amount of options that make it more approachable, it is inherently a fast-paced and challenging game. Though enemies tend to have predictable movesets, rooms can easily become overcrowded thanks to additional monsters spawning and all the various long-range attacks more elite units might throw your way. Not only that, but like most roguelikes, a great deal of the game is dictated by chance. You have no choice in what weapon or curse, a special attack fueled by fervor you collect from killing enemies, you begin each expedition with. This randomization is a big factor in what can be some broad difficulty swings, but it also creates a lot of rewarding moments when you overcome the drawbacks you face. There are a few instances where you might bump into some difficulty spikes and have a hard time accumulating resources, leading to skill stagnation and, as a result, difficulties on expeditions. Course correcting isn't too painful. I begin to revisit dungeons and go to resource-filled rooms rather than ones filled with enemies or followers. However, these moments can be frustrating. While I primarily played Cult of the Lamb on normal mode, I also tried the game on both easy and hard to get a feel for what the differences were. I was happy to find that, mechanically, everything stays essentially the same. What is impacted by difficulty is the size of enemy health bars and the resources you are given, which makes it ideal to play on a lower difficulty in order to learn the ropes. If you do find the game getting easier for you, or are feeling overly challenged and need a bit of a breather, you can change the difficulty back and forth at will. Also included in the options you can quickly adjust are a few helpful accessibility settings, which should help those who might have motion sickness, visual impairments, epilepsy, or light sensitivity. While a substantial portion of the game takes place inside of dungeons, equally as important are the grassy plains you call home. It is here you are tasked with creating a little slice of paradise for the woodland creatures who call you their leader. This includes ensuring they have places to sleep, food to eat, and a sanitary environment. Once their basic needs are met, your followers will happily work for you, gathering wood and stone as well as generating devotion, which in turn helps you upgrade and decorate your compound. Also important to your cult's success is their overall faith in you. Your faith meter is impacted by how victorious you are on expeditions, as well as how you treat your cultists. Interrupting your followers while they are having a discussion with one another can cost you a few faith points, whereas conducting a ritual in your temple involving animal sacrifice might cause mass disdain. If your faith drops too low, your less loyal followers might start to dissent, sowing seeds of doubt and chaos throughout the cult. You can stave off a potential coup by attempting to re-educate dissenting followers, or even take them out back and finish them off, though the latter might lead to even more discontent. The most important building in your commune is your temple, which is where you can acquire all the upgrades that will help you on your expeditions. At your temple, you can conduct daily sermons that ultimately unlock permanent dungeon upgrades. You can also use the temple altar to declare doctrines, change a few key pieces of your build, and conduct rituals. Declaring doctrines is where you see the greatest amount of player choice in the game, as you can decide whether you'd prefer to be loved or feared by your followers. There are 5 categories of doctrines you can choose from, each with 4 guiding questions that shape how your cult functions. For example, one of these categories is life and death, and poses queries about how you wish for your followers to view dying. You can choose to place an importance on burials, or take a more economical stance and turn bodies into fertilizer. Interestingly enough, the game actually gives you a lot of room to exert some level of benevolence. If you have no desire to sacrifice your cultist to the tentacled being that lies below, you don't have to. And it never feels as if you are being punished or placed at a disadvantage for playing this way. Beyond the stretches of your compound are a few other special locations, with both a dice and fishing minigame tucked away within them. Despite how many pieces and systems there are in Cult of the Lamb, they come together in complete cohesion. Every mechanic, skill tree, and system harmonizes with the resource collection, management, and combat aspects of the game. Also working in harmony is the game's art direction and dark yet playful tone. The woodland creatures that make up Cult of the Lamb's cast resemble Saturday morning cartoon characters, albeit with ritualistic markings adorning their cute and cuddly forms. The game uses color masterfully, with certain palettes designated to certain areas, yet remaining rich and vibrant throughout the game. The upbeat yet unnerving music is sickly sweet and creates a distinct contrast between the cute visuals and the undercurrent of impending doom. Lastly, while a plethora of recent games might have more poignant things to say about death, Cult of the Lamb offers a fun and more lighthearted take on the subject, leaning more into chaotic nihilism. The bulk of its focus is instead on the acquisition and transfer of power, as well as how easy it is to lose it. Naturally, these themes take the game into some dark places, but it manages to do so without ever feeling like it's trying too hard to be edgy. All of these elements come together to solidify Cult of the Lamb as a standout title in both the roguelike and simulation genres, as well as a one-of-a-kind entry that exists in the middle of both. Whether you are exploring the dungeons or expanding your cult, the experience is enjoyable, challenging, and more than a bit demented. With how surprisingly dense each of these parts are, the fact that all the pieces come together as smoothly as they do is a triumph.